Set up the new Revic BLR 10B range-finding binocular with ballistics. See if I can make a mess out of this without going completely wholesale. So nice little EPP case, easy to pop open. You can store this, you can transport your product in there. We've got the binocular in a soft case. Quick start guide. Let's hope I don't have to reference that since I've been in this for a couple of years. Lens cloths, battery, we're gonna need that in a sec, and a carry strap. So a lot of guys, probably like me, like to use a bino harness, so you won't use the carry strap, but it's here. We get inside of the bino case. We've got a lens cover that you can put on or not, depending on your preference. So we've got a Revic 10x42 binocular. It's got a laser rangefinder. It's got all of your weather sensors, and it has the ballistic computer on it. But what we're going to do right now in this video is we're going to set it up, make sure it's powered on, so that we can get our focus and our eye relief correct so that we're ready to use it in the next set of videos. So let me give you a quick overview on the nomenclature. The first thing we have is your eye cups, and you've got a couple real distinct detent positions so you can make a shorter or longer eye relief to fit whether you have glasses or you're running without glasses. So I've got glasses, so I'm gonna run those all the way down to the bottom. The second thing that you'll see here is you have 3 different focus adjustments. The main image focus right here that we're all used to, but we have a display focus on the right barrel, and we have a diopter focus on the left barrel. Now the purpose of the display focus is solely to get the display focus for our eye. And the purpose of the diopter focus is to make the focus match for our left and right eyes. So I'm going to take a minute and show you how to set that focus up and explain it so that everybody's comfortable. We have a battery compartment for a CR2 battery, and you need to run lithium batteries. And we have a little information display badge right here. And then on the front, we've got our fire, menu, up and down buttons. Here's where you attach your carry strap. And I think that covers it. Oh, last thing is you can spin this little plastic button out, and that has a 1/4-20 for a tripod mounting stud. So I'll demonstrate that in some later videos as well. So I think that covers all the features, buttons, and nomenclature on the device. So let's take a minute, make sure that the eye cups are set the way we want it, and then I'm gonna show you how to focus the display and the binoculars. It's pretty straightforward, but it seems a little convoluted in the process. Because the display is in the right barrel, what I want to do is cover the right barrel with my left hand. And I'm going to check my power. Yep, I've already got power, so the battery's installed. Little tip on the battery is you need to have it all the way tight and make sure you don't cross-thread that when you put it in. So battery's installed, I turn the power on, and all I see is black with the red display. And I'm going to turn this adjustment ring until that display is in best focus for me. Okay, that looks really good. So now I've got the display focused. In the same barrel, I want to get an image in focus. So I'm going to cover the left barrel. So now I'm looking through the binocular. I've got the display there, but I'm also looking downrange at a target. And then adjust your image focus back and forth until the image that you see at the target is as clear and crisp as possible. So now I've got the display focused and the image in the right barrel focused. Now I'm going to switch over to the left barrel, and I'm going to adjust the diopter ring until the left image is in focus. Without bumping that, I'll hold the right barrel. I'll look down that left barrel. I'll dial that focus until that looks just right. So now I've adjusted that. So there's your setting. If you want to look on the bottom, there's a little witness mark, just so you can keep track of those settings for the future and focus up a little faster. Then I'm just going to adjust my interpupillary distance until I get one image. And now I'm focused. I'll check the display. That looks really, really good. So pretty simple setup, and I think a lot of guys just go over this and they just skip this part, but you have to do that routine to make sure that the image is focused for your left and right eye together and your display is focused. And then once you do that, you'll get a lot better viewing experience out of this binocular. So what we're going to do in the next set of videos is we're going to explore all the different features for ballistics, for inputs, for loading ballistic profiles, and some of the neat features we built into the range finding potential of this device. So make sure you tune in. let's overview the display in the new Revic BLR10B range-finding binoculars. Then we'll cover the buttons, the menu settings, and navigation, and then we'll finish on quick keys. So I've got an Outdoorsman tripod stud. I'm going to use this to help me demonstrate this system, but it's really nice for ranging and for glassing. Get my perspective right. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is look at this display, and the main things that you have access to, I'm going to just turn this on so you can see it, is the aiming circle. So that's where you're going to start. You're going to see the aiming circle in the center. That's present in all modes, all power situations when you've got it turned on. So there's my aiming circle. Above the aiming circle, we have a 7-segment display called our upper segment. And below it, we have our lower segment. And then, you've got your yard meter indicators down to the right. And then up on the left side, if we start at the bottom, you have a Bluetooth indicator. So when it's on and flashing, it's in pairing mode. If it's not there, then Bluetooth's off. And if it's on and solid, then you're connected. You've got your battery display. And by the way, the battery display is counting on you guys feeding it a lithium battery. And then above that, we have our long range mode indicator. So we'll talk about that more when we talk about targeting modes, but that says you're either in long range mode, or if it's not there, then it's off. And then we finish with our wind clock. And that wind clock is essentially a diamond made up of 12 little segments. So we use it for entering the wind direction. So you can do 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock wind. But once you calculate your ballistics, it also will illuminate like a right arrow or an up arrow to show a up correction or a right correction. So the upper segment is generally your output for your ballistics, your wind and elevation. The lower segment is the output for your range, or if you've enabled shoot to range, your BDC correction there as well. So pretty straightforward on the display. We've tried to simplify it as much as we can because this is an imaging device and we are going to spend a lot of time glassing. We wanted to keep it as simple as possible. All right, let's talk buttons. So we've got 4 buttons: fire button, menu button, up and down button. And don't argue with me about why the up arrow and the down arrow are the way they are. They just are. If you're holding the device like this, down is down. So generally we're dealing in this range. So we felt like the down button should be the down. So down is that way. All right, so to use the fire button, you can use it to turn on the device. So you press and hold for 2 seconds. That turns the device on. If you press it once quickly, that initiates a single measurement mode range. And if you use the menu button, 1 button press helps navigate. You can combine it with some quick keys. A 3-second button press will enter the settings menu. And then, like I said, we've got some quick key combinations as well. So pretty easy to navigate. When you're in the settings menu, like you press and hold for 3 seconds, pops the settings menu up. You navigate by using the arrows up and down to find the item that you want to adjust. And once you're there, you'll short press the menu button to select that item to edit it. And generally you'll see some flashing. So then use your arrow buttons to adjust that item to the value you want. And when you're done, you press the fire button to save that value and it returns you up just to the main settings menu. Now, if you want to go all the way back to the main display, just hit the fire button again and it takes you back to the main display. So when you're using the device, if you just remember, menu selects and advances where fire saves and exits. So it's a fairly straightforward navigation routine. Let's just go over a few of the settings menu items that we have here. So turn it on. 3 seconds takes us to the settings menu. The first one that pops up is the temperature, and it's going to show you the temperature value the device is reading right now. If you get in a situation where this temperature is much different than the ambient, you know it's wrong. Let's say more than 20 degrees wrong. You can use the arrow buttons to adjust that after you press menu, and that puts you in a manual measurement mode. So now you've overrid that temperature to say 65 degrees. It will stay 65 degrees on that setting until the device goes to sleep and powers off. Then it'll reset back to the automatic sensor. So a couple other really cool settings that we have, if you take a look, is the next one is the range mode. So you either have range only, which allows us to transmit the vector back to our app, or just to collect some vector data that we want without ballistics. You've got range mode. If you pick the other option, which is a profile, you have a profile on the device, you navigate to that one and pick it. Now you can do ballistic solutions with that fire button press. So we'll talk about ranging with ballistics in the future. And one thing that you'll see is you'll have profile, and then if you select it, it will scroll to show you the first letters of your profile so you can confirm that it's the right profile. Now, the next item that we want to look at is units, and you can basically select US and yards, SI and meters, and the other two combinations of those. And generally, we're just going to leave that on US and yards. You can switch between right and left hand. That one's pretty cool. And the buttons indicate that with an F and an M and an up arrow and a down arrow. So if you do run left-handed, it's there. You got latitude, so it ships from the factory with north 44 degrees. You can change that to your location. If you go way outside of the US, absolutely you need to shift. You know, down in southern Texas, maybe you need to shift. We've got a compass calibration, which is kind of cool. If you're going to calibrate your compass, go outside, get away from the metal building. Try to stay away from any big, like your car or truck. And then when you initiate that calibration, you just do figure eights for about 10 to 15 seconds. And then that picked up the calibration, so that's done. That one's pretty easy, and you can always check that with your, say like your measured values menu, or, you know, looking at your vector so you can see, did I get the right setting? Is north. All right, so the next one that we have is Bluetooth. And Bluetooth, you can run automatic, you can run off. So if we turn that to on, then it'll automatically detect and pick up. So now back at the main display, I can see the Bluetooth icon flashing. That means that it's looking for a device to pair. If you want to conserve or you're not connecting, you can turn it off and it'll stay off. It'll stay off after a power off. But if Bluetooth is turned on, every time you power up the device, the Bluetooth icon is going to flash. It's looking for a device to connect to. So you can connect to the Gen 2 Radical Rifle Scope, you can connect to the BHD, you can connect to your phone, whether it's an Android or iPhone, and connect to the Revic app there. So it's looking for that device to pair to. Now, once you've connected to the device, it's going to bond. And that way, the next time you turn everything on, you don't have to repair it. It'll just connect and operate. So the last thing we need to cover is quick keys. Now, quick keys are essentially a button or a button combination that allows you to access a feature without going into the settings menu. So technically, something like pressing the fire button is a quick key. Another real simple quick key is if you do a short press of the menu button while the device is on, that will change your targeting mode. And you have near, far, then you have long range near, long range far. We'll talk about those again in another video. The other quick key item that's pretty cool is we move the brightness setting out of the settings menu into a quick key. So to access that one, device is on, press the menu button, and before 3 seconds are up, press the up arrow or the down arrow and just adjust it, setting 1, 2, 3, 4 or auto, whichever one works for you the best, okay? Most of the time, auto is going to work for you just right, except for those really low light situations, you might want to just force it into like a brightness setting 1. So pretty easy to change the brightness now. Another one that is pretty cool when you're doing ballistics is to input a wind vector. So now we're going to use that wind clock, and I'll just run you through the navigation. Essentially, we'll put in the direction first, then we'll save the direction, then we'll put in the speed. So to enter any type of wind input, the first thing that you do, display is on, I'm ready to go, I can see the wind clock because I've got my profile turned on. I hit any of the arrow buttons, down or up, and just dial that to the direction that you want. And in the upper segment, it has a clock position that it will also display to help make sure that you know where you're at. So when the wind clock and the number indicate and change when you push the button, that means you're setting the wind direction. So that's the direction the wind's coming from. Once you have that set how you want it, press the menu button, and now you're in the speed menu. So now just push the button up or down, and you'll see the wind clock stays the same, but the value changes. And once you have the value you want, press fire to save it. And now when you take a range, it will calculate the ballistics based on that specific wind vector. And we'll talk about base wind versus vector wind in another video. There's one more very quick key that's handy to have, and that accesses your measured values. It's kind of a research tool where we'll let you dial in to the bino and explore all the sensor settings and all the measurements that you took on the last reading. So if I just took a range at a target downrange, and I want to know, well, what was the incline? What was the temperature? What was the pressure? What was the elevation correction, windage correction, etc.? I can just jump into this measured values menu. And the way I do that, again, it's a combination button press. So with the display on, I press the menu button and hold it, and before 3 seconds is up, hit the fire button. And then once you're in that menu, you just use your arrow buttons to just scroll through the entire set of data that you just collected. So this is a really good way to research. You know, I'm really comfortable with my app and my ballistics and my ballistic solution, and I want to know, can I get parity between the device and the app? And so here's all your inputs. You can plug those values into your app, and you can say, oh, well, the inputs are the same, the outputs are the same, so then you can have some confidence that your device is working well. I think that's a pretty good overview of our display, our buttons, our menu, navigation, and our quick keys. And if you want to take a deeper dive into that, just jump online to revicoptics.com, or you can pull up your Revic Optics app. You can go to product manual so you can access it there as well. And if you want to dive into those settings menus a little bit more, or make sure you see all the different quick key options, that's a really good way to reference that, and it's really accessible on your app or online. So in the next couple videos, we're going to take a deep dive into ranging, and we're going to explore ballistics and how all those systems work together. So make sure you tune in. Let's look at programming the Revic BOR-10B ballistic rangefinder binocular with the Revic Ops app. This is actually very, very simple. In the new device, we've set it up so that you can program one ballistic profile at a time. We found that that really simplifies the concern for having the right profile loaded or checking to make sure that the profile is complete. It's so easy to program from the app that you just don't need to have multiple profiles. So if you want to program, the first thing you do is fire up the device. I can see that my Bluetooth icon is flashing. It's looking for a device to pair to. Now, if the Bluetooth icon is not flashing, that means that you've turned the Bluetooth off. You need to go to the settings menu, navigate to the Bluetooth setting, and then change it to on, and then you'll have a flashing icon. So I've got the Revic Ops app open. I've got my module list here. I've got all my different modules I can use. I'm going to go to the profile and check this profile real quick and make sure I'm happy with all of the settings. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the ballistic turret on so I'm getting a shoot to range. All right, so that looks good. Now with that done, from the module page, I can click that little sync icon. Now it's showing me my binos. I'm gonna click on that to connect. Once it's connected, it shows me a solid white. So I'm ready to pick this profile right here and then sync the selected. Boom, it's done, completed. And to double check, we can just navigate by 3 seconds on the menu button, and I'm gonna go to the mode. There we go, select it. There we go. That shows that I've got my 7 PRC profile in there. Okay, we'll hit fire to save that one. Okay, the device is loaded with the right profile. It's ready to do some cool stuff. That was a quick overview. I think you'll find that one profile synced from your phone is faster than navigating a menu with 10 different profiles in it. It's easy to verify your data, and it's easy to send it without getting into the menu system. So the next set of videos we have are really going to take a deep dive into wind vector entry, ranging with ballistics, all of our different measurement modes for ranging, and you don't want to miss out on those videos, so make sure you tune in. In the Revic BLR-10B range-finding binocular with ballistics, we have a pretty sophisticated set of targeting modes and measurement modes, or ranging modes, that we're going to want to use to identify the right target in the right ranging scenario. And there will be a combination of these that is going to get you the range you need in that hunting situation where everything depends on getting a good ballistic solution. So let me see if I can break it down without making it too complex. In the targeting modes, essentially we have near and far, and that's how we discriminate the laser data that's being reflected from the targets, and essentially you've got near and far. With the ranging modes or the measurement modes, we've got single measurement mode, multi-measurement mode, and then we have this crossover called long range mode that is essentially kind of split between the targeting modes and your ranging modes. So in the setup to get your targeting mode the way that you want it, essentially you turn the device on, and if you remember from our menu navigation, if you just short press the menu, you can cycle between 4 different options. You can cycle near, far, long range, near, long range, far. And what's really important to understand is that when you turn on long range mode, it changes the way the laser sends and receives data. For a standard mode, like a single measurement mode without long range mode activated, what you'll find is when you press that button, the minute that you actuate that button, it's sending data out and collecting it. And most of the time you're going to get a range back before you can let the button go. Now, when I'm using the device, a little tip that I have is you aim at a target and you're in a standard ranging mode. When you press that button down, I don't let go until I see the range, because that just disturbs how you're aiming the device. So to stay steady, I depress and I hold until I see a range. When you're in standard ranging mode, so not long range mode, and you've got either far or near picked for your targeting mode, and you're going to take a single measurement, so that's that single depression. If you hold that button down for 3 seconds, whether you've gotten a range or not, it's going to switch to multi-measurement mode, which is kind of like a scan mode. So once you hold that button down, there's a range, now it starts flashing, and now as I go to different targets, I'm starting to show up with different ranges. And wherever I land, when I finish, when I let go of the button, that is the range that gets passed to the ballistic solver. So that feature where you can initiate, you've got your really lightning fast target discrimination, and that switch to a multi-measurement mode, the minute that you turn on long range mode, that function no longer exists. And so in long range mode, when you actuate that button, it will range for up to 5 seconds and it will build a target out of the noise. And we use that all the time. When you're not able to get a range for your normal modes, you switch to long range mode and get really steady and make sure you pick whether you want near or far, and then that will usually dig up a range in that bad light condition, fog, snow or mirage, or super long ranges, 2,000-3,000 yards. So that's a pretty good breakdown of how you're going to actuate a range with the Revic BLR-10B and the different targeting modes that you might choose and the reason why. So in our next video, we're going to talk about ranging with ballistics, and that's where the Revic really outshines the competition. In the Revic BLR-10B range-finding binocular with ballistics, we have a very simple methodology for getting very sophisticated ballistic solutions. We've set up a process for hunting. We're all about hunting at Revic. So we've set up a process where most of your hunting shots and opportunities that are, 5, 6, maybe under 700 yards, usually are happening fast, where you need to get set up, you need to get a solution as quickly as possible. One button is perfect. So you set up, you take a range, it gives you your elevation and your windage solution with one button press. Now you can execute on the gun, and if you got a shooter spotter, it's even faster. So we call that a base wind solution. And basically what we're saying is that if you have a nominal wind, which is a 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock, full value type wind situation, you've programmed that as part of your profile. Most of the time we're picking something like 5 or 10 miles per hour, but some guys determine a wind number. You can use your wind number that kind of says a little bit more about your system. But so you take this base wind value, and what we're going to do is turn off some of the more advanced ballistic corrections like headwind, tailwind correction, aerodynamic jump, spin drift, all of these corrections that need to know what direction the wind is coming from. We turn those off so that when you push the button, it will give you a elevation correction with eOftos effect built in, and then it will give you that base wind windage correction. Now, you need to know, is it a left to right wind or right to left, and you need to hold accordingly. And then you also need to be able to scale. What if your base wind's a 5, but the actual wind situation is 10? Well, you just double it. But what it gives you is a really fast way to get a solution that doesn't require a lot of menu navigations to access. When you push the button on the rangefinder, it will give you the range, it will give you your BDC range, it will give you your elevation correction, and then it will give you a windage correction that is based on a full value crosswind, either 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock crosswind, at that base wind value. And as a shooter, all you do is you say, hey, it says it's a 5 mile an hour base wind, and that's a 2-minute hold, but I actually have a 10 mile an hour wind, so I'm going to double that to 4-minute hold. So it's a really quick way to scale up and get on target when you're hunting and you need a solution fast, say sub 6, maybe out to 700 yards. You start pushing to that 1,000-yard number and beyond, you really have to dial in a full vector solution. That's where you have to put in the direction the wind's coming from and the speed the wind is traveling. And when you do that, it allows us automatically in the device to enable all the complex solution mechanisms that use that wind vector, like aerodynamic jump or headwind, tailwind corrections, and adding spin drift and Coriolis as well. Essentially, the way we like to think of that is base wind is for under half a mile, vector wind is for over half a mile. And in the vector wind, you're going to use your arrows and your buttons and your menu and fire button to enter the wind direction and then the wind speed. Then when you take a range, your ballistic solution will have all of that stuff enabled. So it's a very straightforward method to get a fully complete and advanced ballistic solution, but it does take a little bit of extra time. So generally that over half-mile shot, you have a little bit more time to prepare. You need to take a little bit more time to read your wind. And those are the two main wind solutions. We can review the BDC solution as well. So in the display, we talked about a little indicator that shows BDC. Now that BDC indicates a shoot to range calculation. So if I've loaded a profile on the device that has a ballistic turret enabled, then when I push the range button, I'm going to get a range, let's say 800 yards. And then it's going to switch to the BDC solution, the shoot to solution, which might be 776. And it's doing that because of the differences in air temperature, in pressure, in inclination, all those advanced things that we're solving for. Even aerodynamic jump, it would correct for that. So that's the range that you would dial to if you're using a BDC turret. So now it doesn't matter whether you're dialed MOA or BDC, it's a perfect solution. So the BDC is pretty straightforward, and then it'll just flash back and forth between the range and the BDC range. Now, while it's doing that in the upper segment, you still will see your wind hold and your elevation come-ups in mil or MOA, whichever your unit choice is. So there's the three things: your base wind mode, vector wind mode, and now we just covered the BDC or shoot to range. That concludes the quick start videos for the Revic BLR-10B range finding binocular with ballistics. And we covered all the topics from programming, from menus and navigation, to ranging and targeting modes. And finally, we settled on some advanced topics for ranging with ballistics. If you missed any of those previous topics, make sure you go back and review those videos. As we continue our education, teaching people how to use Revic products to get exceptional ballistic solutions and make that perfect shot, watch for a continuing video series where we'll demonstrate in the field how to use the Revic binocular to get the solution when the shot is on the line and the conditions are tough.